Okay, well, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to day 12 of our 30-day wild adventure. I'm Ben. So far I've talked about seeds and photosynthesis, and then last time we went to the Wetlands Centre, the London Wetlands Centre, which was very much about animals, I think, all those birds and lizards and frogs and wonderful things we saw. So today I thought I'd talk to you about a completely different group of organisms that we share our planet with. I'm going to be talking to you about these guys, our funguses, or fungi, actually. I should say fungi, shouldn't I? Not funguses. Fungi or fungi. So many ways of saying one thing. Now, fungi are a completely different kind of organism. They don't photosynthesize. That's a very, very important difference. People often think that they are similar to plants, and they're not. They're a totally different group, a different kingdom of organisms. So there's a bit of discussion about how many kingdoms there are. There's definitely the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the kingdom of the fungi. And then there's a bit of discussion about how many more. In the UK we say there are 5, in the US they say there are 6, and they divide up things like bacteria and lichen and things like that. But fungi are one of the bigger kingdoms, one of the big 3 of plants, animals and fungi. And it's actually thought there are about 10 times more fungus in the world, fungi in the world, than there are plants. There's about 400,000 species of plant, it's thought. And it's thought there's about 10 times as many of these. And as you can see, I've got one kind here, which is pretty traditional. That's this part here is called the bell of the fungus. This one doesn't really look like a bell, but they can be a lot more rotund. This bit here is called the stem, and I haven't got the final bit, which is the bit sort of like the fungus equivalent of roots, and those are the mycelia. Now, they're a lot smaller, a lot finer than roots, and they spread out into the rotting vegetation around them. So structurally, they are a little bit similar to plants, but they don't photosynthesize. And actually, this doesn't gather energy of any kind, which is what the leaves are for on trees. What this is the fruiting body. So this is the part we're much more used to seeing and the part we're more familiar with. And that is all about these bits here, these little frills, these gills actually they're called. And in between those gills, there are millions and millions and millions of little spores. And again, if we're going to compare them to plants, spores are fungus seeds. They contain the genetic information, but they are infinitely tinier than seeds. They are utterly microscopic, comparable to orchid dust, but even smaller again. In fact, just one of these can release millions of spores. And you can actually capture those in a spore print, which is what I'm going to try and do with this one, is where you cut the stem off and you place the bell onto a piece of paper, or a piece of foil is meant to be really good as well, and it captures over several hours. It falls out, the spores fall out, and you get a perfect little replica pattern of the fungus. So I'm going to try and do that later on. There should be a picture to the side or below this video now. If there isn't, my spore print experiment didn't go very well, but I'll probably put some examples up anyway so you can have a look at a spore print. It's really, really fun to do. I do advise you give it a go. Take a look at it, look it up on Google or YouTube or something first. It's very nice to nibble, and it's a really fun way of looking at spores. But they're very, very different to plants because they don't photosynthesize. That's the big important difference. And that's actually going to bring us on to this one here. Now, this is a very different kind of fungus. This is called a coral fungus, and you can kind of see why it's called a coral fungus. It looks like a coral. But this actually has a really interesting relationship with trees, particularly maple and birch. You often find coral fungus just at the base, in the leaf litter at the base of trees like maple and birch. And what they have is a mutualistic relationship. They actually benefit each other being around one another. So the coral fungus gathers a lot of water and is very, very good at gathering water because the mycelia are much, much finer than the roots of the tree. But they form a lattice work with the roots. They sort of link arms with the roots of the birch or the maple tree, and they exchange water for carbohydrates, because the fungus don't make carbohydrates very easily because they don't photosynthesize. That's what photosynthesis is all about, taking energy from the sun and creating glucose sugar, which is a very nice form, a very simple form of carbohydrates, but it will give the fungus carbohydrates in time of drought in exchange for water that the fungus has gathered, and it gives that to the tree. So absolutely amazing relationships. Now, a little bit of background about fungus. They're actually in our lives a lot more than we would think. Very famously, of course, there's the mushroom industry in the UK, worth millions and millions and millions of pounds. But then there's also, very famously in 1928, there was Alexander Fleming, who realised that certain kinds of fungus would kill off bacteria, and he thought, aha, maybe we can do that inside the human body and kill off bacterial infections with our wonderful friends, the fungus. And so was born penicillin and the world of antibiotics, which I think you'll definitely agree is a very, very good thing. Now, just got a lawnmower joining us today, just behind us here, so that'll be nice and noisy for everyone and might even drown out my silly old voice, so let's see what happens there. But you also find them in your day-to-day food shopping as well. You'll find them almost everywhere. Look at the back of the ingredients of the food you're buying and you'll notice citric acid. Now this is actually made by a fungus. Also, very, very interestingly, very famously rather, the alcohol in your evening beverage. That actually comes from turning sugar into alcohol, and what does that is a fungus as well. So fungus really is with us to stick around. It's going to be around a lot long, it's going to be around forever. So yeah, fungus, absolutely fantastic stuff. It's wonderful out here exploring. Brilliant, brilliant place to look around for it. Places like woodlands and ditches and places like that. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now, let you get on with your day. But that is a little bit of background about funguses. Like I said, with these ones, I'm going to go back now to my house and start trying to create a spore print. And I'll show you the results of that in the pictures just next to the video. But apart from that, I hope you have a wonderful day. This has been day 12 of 30 Days Wild. Can't wait to see what happens next. Bye.